Hey, friends, it's Leslie, and I just wanted to talk today about a little reflecting I've been doing after our recent team workshop that Lynn put on last week with our team. And I want to talk about how something hit me hard, and maybe it'll hit you too. Maybe it'll give you a little insight to what's going on in your own business. There was a time in our firm when everything felt like it was on fire. It wasn't intentional, it was massive chaos. And I mean massive chaos. And I wasn't trying to create chaos because, like many of you, I don't like chaos. But everything seemed urgent. The client questions, it was like, oh my gosh, I gotta get this done now. The tax notices, every one of them was urgent. Team confusion, panic, trying to keep them busy, trying to find them stuff to do because we didn't have it in the system, and it was mass chaos. We were running around reacting to everything. And honestly, it was all on fire at the same time. And when the leader is on fire, the whole team is actually choking from the smoke. They don't know what's coming. So I'm going to use this example. We had this one client that had been doing for years. And one of the team members just was struggling with it. And I was like, why is this so hard? Why can't she get this? Well, the problem is she didn't have all of this. She didn't have it in her brain. But once I stopped and put it in a checklist and a process for her, it's been smooth sailing ever since. But you see, I never stopped to ask why. Why was she struggling with this so bad? And many of you I know are doing the same thing because I talk to you all the time. You're saying that I give it to the team member, it comes right back. It's like a boomerang. But a lot of times they're missing pieces. And they're constantly second guessing, constantly bracing for the next wave, and that's what she was doing. She hated that time of the month when that client would come around. She absolutely hated it. And here's what wrecks me when I look back now. And we talked about this some in our team workshop last week. Is it was what I was putting them through was the exact chaos I wanted out of when I left corporate. But I had created the same thing in my own business. And I know many of you have too. I created that environment. And not because I was mean or bad, but because I was so overwhelmed, overworked, and didn't know any other way. And as I look at our team now, our amazing, committed, big hearted team, I truly don't know how they stayed with us through that. I really don't. But I think what made the difference was even in the mess, we talked, we developed, we listened. I can't tell you when we were in office how many times we they would come in and sit on Lynn's couch just to talk. And it didn't have to be about work either. We just listened. Because in a time where people aren't being heard, that's what they need is they need to be heard. And we made time, real time to connect even when everything in our business felt like it was freaking burning down. We still had team meetings. We still did more team development stuff like team check-ins and actually talking about what was going on in their life. Because you see, even with social media and all the tech we have, most people still feel alone. And there's been recent examples in our coaching program where people are like, I just don't understand why they can't get it. And I'm like, and I think back to that month end that team member struggled with all the time. It was because there's no process. Well, I just had to figure it out. So why can't they? That's the reason you left the environment. And even though we're virtual now, last week we made time to come together in person. And Len and I drove down there to meet with them. And we took one whole solid day for team development workshop. And it was the most powerful thing I could have done as a business owner, because we sat down and we talked about communication styles, personalities, how we tick, and how we trigger each other. And yeah, we laughed, but then we also understood each other better. We understood clients better. We understood what motivated us. And like me, if I would have known what I know now, it could have changed a whole lot of things for me, because I understand myself better. I understand that I'm naturally going to go under stress to analytics. I'm naturally going to do that. And there's been situations where that's happened recently, and I'm like, let me go forecast that. And I went right to it. But now my team understands, hey, just give her a minute to process. And then she's going to come back to us and say it's going to be okay. And it wasn't fluffy or anything. We sat around at one of the team members' houses, and it wasn't anything big except for the connection that was big, because it was so raw. And one of my team members literally said, when she was doing the stuff before the workshop, some of this punched me right in the gut. And now I understand why I do the things I do. But she never understood that before. Because many people have asked us how we actually developed the team of strong women that we have right now. And I don't believe it was by accident, because many of them could have gone a different way, because when they came to us, they were young. They didn't know what they wanted to be when they grew up. But Lynn and I just poured into them. We poured everything we had into them, even though we felt like we were on fire. But they also said, this is helping me not just at work, but in my life, in their relationships. You see, most of my team has really young kids. So when they understand themselves, they also learn to understand their children and how to communicate with their spouses. And the part that hit me when Lynn asked the question, I think it was, what kind of job do you want? They said, one that's like this, where it's just, the culture is just amazing to be around, and I just want to be around it. Because you see, it didn't matter what the job was. It was the relationship they valued. And even though I throw this group of women so much information all the time, I'm changing directions all the time, because many of them came to me to start as an admin, a bookkeeper, and now some of them are lead coaches, sales, marketing. And yes, we still have the accounting side, but you see, I saw more in them than they saw in themselves. So they invested right back in me. And I hear all the time that a lot of people don't want to invest in their team. Oh, they'll just leave. Who are they anyway? They're just here. And I'm like, but what if they stay? What if they stay? And so many of you are afraid to actually hire, and I get it. It was hard. It wasn't easy. But at the same time, I don't regret anything we have done with this group that we have. And we're going to continue to improve this group, and we're going to continue to inspire others to do the same, because that's what it is for us. It's about adding value to people. And I look back at this group of women and think about where they were, because some of them I've known since they were a kid. And I get to be part of that. That's huge for me. And a lot of them are Lynn's family, and we had to have those hard conversations. But at the same time, it was like, but what if what we do keeps them from having to live what we've lived, and having to choose between their kids and their spouses and their jobs? So we created that safe space. And many of you that I know are running on fire, that are watching this right now, you're like, yeah, Leslie, that's all great, but I don't, I just don't buy into it. And we've recently launched these team workshops where it's with the owner and the team to do this same type workshop that we did with our team, because that's what we do. We test it with our team, see if it works, see how it impacts them. We get feedback from them so we can make each one better. And so this week, Lynn did one with another team, and hearing what I heard after that is why we do what we do. Because you see, most people won't invest in other people like this, especially because they have this employer employee relationship, they think. But what happens when you invest in people? And yeah, I've had a team member leave to go start her own business, but you know what? I had a place in that. I took part of that. I gave her the confidence to do that. We made her see something in herself that she's never seen before. And you know what? I'm proud of her for that. Because to me, it's about developing people. Because the more you develop people, the more you actually get back because you're developing along the way. John Maxwell talks about the law of the lid. And when I first read and studied about this, it made so much sense because your leadership lid can only go so high. So if your leadership lid is here, this is as high as your team can go. But if you slowly grow your leadership lid, your team grows with it. So up here. And so as we've had conversations with our coaching clients on the law of the lid, many of them realized they had to grow too. And that's what one thing Lynn and I did along the way is we grew every single day. We were doing something to develop ourselves, even when we were on fire. And when we were developing ourselves, we were also developing our team because even when we were on fire, we still did book club where we all read a book together and we would discuss it every single week. And some of the books that we read are not your traditional business books at all. A lot of it is on personal development because they're learning about themselves. So if you think about your team, and we have this mixed workforce right now of mixed generations, well, you have to understand how to bring that together and mesh as a team for a common result. So you see, there was something that came up for me yesterday, and so many of you are so busy focusing on the systems, the hours, the deliverables, that we forget about the humans behind it. We actually forget about the people. We forget that task management doesn't matter if your team's afraid to ask questions because they're going to sit there paralyzed. Pricing doesn't matter if your team doesn't feel safe enough to tell you when something is off. Because the thing about pricing, because I know many of you are struggling with pricing, your team is probably better at it than you are because you're going to discount your services every single time. Back to the law of the lid. Because if you sit here, you don't value yourself. But if you sit here, you do value yourself. You know what's coming. So I want you to think about something. When does communication happen in your business? A lot of you don't communicate at all. You just like, I'll just do it myself. I'll handle it. But you don't look at the long-term result. You're looking very short-sighted because many of you are the chief technology officer in your business, and that's all you're doing is constantly, client can't get into tax zone, client can't get this, client can't get this. That's all you're doing all day long. Yeah, I live that too. But once I was able to start removing myself and put myself in the right role, things shifted. When I put people in the right role because I freaking listened and not just threw things at them. And yes, all this was going on while I felt the business was on fire. So for those of you that are saying I can't do this because I get too overwhelmed, let me tell you, yes, you can. Because communication doesn't happen if your team is just bracing for the next emergency. And I'll be honest, it wasn't a software that fixed this. It wasn't a program. It wasn't anything. It was us getting uncomfortable, making space, and choosing to lead instead of control. So if you're in a season where your team feels disconnected, or even if you're scared to hire a team because you've already had this bad experience, or you just are stuck, I want you to ask yourself, what are you doing to make them want to stay? Because many of you are afraid to have these conversations because you're afraid they they won't stay. But let's flip the script. What if they do stay? Have you ever asked them how they feel about their work? Like that question I used earlier is what's your dream job? Have you ever asked the question? Are you afraid to ask the question? Are you just stuck in get it done mode? Because I know that's where many of you are. And I get it. I've been there. But at the same time, you don't need another productivity hack. A lot of you just need to stop and get direction. I know there's several in our coaching program right now that is trying to go through what it is that they actually want, because many of them are wanting to burn their businesses down because they're constantly on fire. Some of them have even bought businesses, and that business was on fire when they bought it. So they just fueled the fire. And so many of you just need to have a real conversation. And if you don't know where to start, we can help. That's literally what we do. People, my team actually asks me all this all the time. They're like, why do people tell you the stuff they tell you? I'm like, I don't know. I guess I'm a good listener. But the truth is, I just know what questions to ask. And I'm not afraid to ask them. Because you see, even though I didn't start in the accounting profession, I started in retail management. So I learned how to listen to people. And I've worked in retail management in college towns where turnover was high. I didn't have turnover, but it was because I learned to listen. So I applied these things I learned in retail to the accounting firm, even though I didn't realize I was doing it. And this isn't something that is easy to do. It's hard to do because number one, we have to get uncomfortable with ourselves and look at ourselves in the mirror. And many of you are afraid to look at yourself in the mirror and say good things about yourself. And I know it because we do have some of our coaching clients do that. So as this, I hope this training was helpful. And if it was, if you can just drop me a comment, yes, or thumbs up, just give me something that this is helpful, because that's how I build these trainings out, is basically trying to pour value into people where people understand they're not alone. Because when I was going through this fire, that's what I felt, completely alone. Even though I had a business partner that was amazing, we both felt alone. So if you want to chat, feel free to shoot me a DM just to chat, because I've been you, I see you, and I don't want you to keep doing this alone, because you don't have to, even if it is just to talk. So drop me a comment, let me know if this hit, and I will see you soon. Have a great rest of your day.